Hey guys, welcome to my detailed guide for the Weapons Refrain Ultimate. This guide will go through all the mechanics in detail and make the fight as easy for you as possible. Now let's get you through Garuda in the part 1 of my detailed guide series. First we have our waymarks set up like this. There are two variations of this waymark. One is the one you're currently seeing and the other one is this one. Most groups will be using one of these two waymarks and my strat works for both of them. These waymarks actually come into play in phase 3 and Ultima phase, so right now you don't really need to care about them. Now that that's out of the way, let's get started. Have your main tank pull Garuda to the middle to start the phase. And the first mechanic is Slipstream. Slipstream is a frontal cleave that can be dodged. If you get hit by Slipstream, it's going to deal high damage and you're also gonna get stunned. So you wanna avoid it at all cost. So the main tank will point Slipstream away from the group, and then when Slipstream starts casting, main tank will move away from Garuda's front. Ideally the main tank dodges Slipstream by simply moving to Garuda's back, and that resolves the mechanic. And then the main tank moves back to the front after Slipstream happens. Now while the boss is casting Slipstream, one random healer will get a green marker on top of their head. If you look closely, our healer Nomu is standing on the waymark B and he has a green marker on top of his head. We call this marker a minstrel song marker. After Slipstream, Garuda is going to cleave in the direction of the healer with the minstrel song marker. This cleave does massive damage to the first player hit and minor damage to the player behind. So ideally we have the healer with the marker position east or west, and we have our off tank position in front of the healer with a cooldown to take the first hit. So here you can see after Slipstream ends, Garuda cleaves towards our healer with the minstrel song marker, and our off tank stands in front of that healer to take the first hit. Now where our off tank took the minstrel song hit, a green tornado is going to spawn. Because over here our off tank took the hit in melee range, we have to move Garuda north to avoid the tornado. You can also have your off tank stand further away when they take the hit, and that way when the tornado drops, it won't reach the middle, so you can keep your boss where it is. So it's really up to the group how they want to do this mechanic. The tornado will disappear later on its own, so you don't really have to worry about anything else. Moving on, next up ads will spawn, and around the same time Garuda will cast Slipstream, so main tank dodge like last time. Right after Slipstream, Garuda will do Downburst, which is a tank buster with no cast bar, so pop your cooldowns while dodging Slipstream. You don't really need heavy mitigations for this, but if you're a Dark Knight, a TBN will not be enough. Next up, let's talk about the ads. Two types of ads will spawn, a couple of satin plumes and one spiny plume. The off tank needs to provoke the spiny plume and grab aggro, because the spiny plume does mini tank busters later. And because the spiny plume does mini tank busters, the off tank should have mitigations up. Now every time the spiny plume does a tank buster, it applies a debuff called Thermal Low on the off tank. The off tank needs 2 stacks of Thermal Low debuff, so you can't kill the spiny plume too fast. If your off tank gets 3 stacks or 1 stack of the Thermal Low debuff, it'll wipe the raid later. So make sure your off tank has 2 stacks by the time you're killing the spiny plume. Now for the satin plumes, just gather them in one place and AoE them down as fast as you can. By the time you finish killing the satin plumes, Garuda will jump away. Now whenever Garuda or her sisters jump away, AoE will drop on all players. You can of course use the animation as an indicator, but Garuda and her sisters also do a screech sound every time they jump, so you can use that as an indicator and move away to dodge the AoEs as soon as they jump. To make dodging easier, stack in one spot, ideally behind the boss, and then move when it's time. Now when Garuda returns after jumping off, that's actually a good time to kill your spiny plume, cause your off tank will have 2 stacks by then. After spiny dies, it'll leave a bubble behind, We'll use this bubble to cleanse our thermal low stacks. Here you can see where we killed Spiny, there's now a bubble. So yeah, that's the one. At the same time, after coming back, Garuda does Minstrel Shriek, which is raid wide, so reprisal or put up mitigations. Now let's talk about what this bubble exactly does. Entering this bubble will cleanse thermal low stacks. And that is basically what it's here for. Now after Garuda's Minstrel Shriek AoE goes off, we have all our players stack inside the bubble for heals, and then our off tank enters the bubble to cleanse his 2 stacks of thermal low. When you cleanse 2 stacks of thermal low, it does a raid wide, so additional healing is required. Make sure your off tank has cleansed his thermal low stacks before Garuda casts Friction. Now in UWU, you have to awaken each primal in order to clear the raid. And to awaken Garuda, you need to cleanse 2 stacks of thermal low stacks 4 times. Our off tank cleansed his 2 stacks of thermal low before the Friction cast, so that leaves 3 more cleanses. But none of our other players have any thermal low stacks, and that's where Friction comes in. Friction gives each player a thermal low stack. So we need 3 players to get 2 stacks of thermal low, and we'll also need the other 5 players to get 1 stack of thermal low. To do that, before the Friction cast ends, our 2 melee and our off tank get out of the bubble and they stay outside the bubble, and the other players stay inside the bubble so they don't get the first stack. After the first Friction cast ends, everyone gets out of the bubble because Garuda will cast Friction a second time, and this time everyone needs to get that thermal low stack. At this point we have 3 players with 2 thermal low stacks and 5 players with 1 thermal low stack. To awaken Garuda we need 3 more cleanses of 2 thermal low stacks. So now we are gonna use the bubble. As I previously mentioned, cleansing 2 thermal low stacks does raid wide damage, so tanks will put up their shields and raid wide mitigations here. After this, our 2 melees who have the 2 thermal low stacks will cleanse their stacks using the bubble. So assign them a cleansing order and have them cleanse one after the other. Don't take too long to cleanse or else the bubble will disappear. The off tank will cleanse later in the fight, and not now. We had a lot of mitigation, shields and healing, so our cleanse is very quick. Normally 1 DPS will cleanse, then there will be a 2 or 3 second pause, and then the other DPS will cleanse. Now after you are done with cleansing, Garuda will jump away again, so Feather Rain, dodge Feather Rains, and then a raid wide again from Garuda, so reprisal or mitigate, however you want. And then after a few seconds, Garuda's sisters will spawn. They'll jump away seconds after they spawn, so Feather Rains will drop on everyone again. After the sisters jump away, they will reappear on random cardinals. Also, 2 random players will get the green minstrel song markers on them, and then the sisters will cleave towards those players. As we previously covered, minstrel song cleaves deal massive damage to the first player hit, and then minor damage to the rest of the players behind them. To resolve this, we'll first assign each sister to each tank using a priority strat. While all that is happening, there will be a blue donut AoE on the edges of the arena. Garuda will also do a round point-blank AoE around her called Wicked Wheel. To take care of these AoEs, the group stacks in the middle and the main tank pulls Garuda to the northwest intercardinal near the edge. That way the party stays safe from both AoEs. And then when the sisters reappear in intercardinal positions, tanks simply move in front of their assigned sister with a cooldown to soak the minstrel song cleave damage. Now let's go over all that again. It happens a bit fast, so I'm gonna put down subtitles so you can see what's happening. And that's how it's basically done. Now after the two minstrel song cleaves go off, the sisters will jump away again. So feather rains will drop on players again. So move away to dodge. And also where the tanks took the minstrel song cleave hits, green tornadoes will spawn. So pull Garuda away to the safe spot. After this, ads will spawn again. This time you can just kill them ASAP, no need to wait for anything at all. Bring back Garuda to the middle because Garuda will soon do a slipstream followed by a downburst tank buster. Right before Garuda does slipstream, the two sisters will respawn on east and west side. These positions are fixed. And then tethers will come from sisters, and these tethers need to be soaked by players with thermal low stack. Soaking also cleanses your thermal low debuff. Have your off tank soak one of these tethers to awaken Garuda, and a ranged DPS can soak the other tether. The soak doesn't AoE around the player, so soak away from everyone. And because the off tank is cleansing his two thermal low stacks, raid wide damage will also happen here, so a lot of healing required. And then Garuda is doing slipstream, so main tank dodge, tethers come out, so ranged and off tank take tethers, and main tank take the downburst tank buster. After this, sisters jump away, so feather rain once more, so dodge your feather rains. And after this, Garuda is awakened. You can tell that she's awakened because she has those blue flames on her, which is the indicator that she's awakened. Now we are going to kill her here, but if you don't manage to kill her here, then the rest of the mechanics are the mechanics that you've already seen. First she will do a slipstream, and then she will do a wicked wheel AoE, followed by an AoE outside the wicked wheel. So you will stand outside the wicked wheel and then dodge into the wicked wheel. And her last mechanic is a group stack with no cast bar. So after her wicked wheel goes off, everyone just stack together behind her for the group stack. And that will be all the mechanics for Garuda phase. Now where you kill Garuda, a beyond limits buff will spawn. Have a DPS or healer take the buff. We will explain later what it does in our later guides and why we need it. I hope you clear Garuda, and I'll see you in the next guide.